In the bustling streets of Lagos, a young woman named Helena struggles to survive. After losing her parents, she becomes the sole provider for her little brother, carrying dreams, responsibility, and hope in a worn-out bag. By day, she is a cleaner in a grand corporate office, overlooked by everyone, until one man sees beyond her uniform. This is a story of courage, integrity, and love that defies status and wealth. Watch Helena's journey as she rises, earns respect, and discovers the power of resilience and heart. The city of Lagos never slept. Cars honked constantly, street vendors shouted, and motorcycles threaded through traffic. Helena, a 22-year-old young lady, moved carefully, clutching her small bag close. Inside were the essentials: a bottle of water, a worn notebook, and an appointment letter. Today she was starting her new job as a cleaner in a corporate building. Helena had graduated with good degrees. She had sacrificed sleep, weekends, and social life to earn her degrees, believing education would guarantee opportunity. Yet after months of searching and attending interviews, doors remained closed. Months ago, her parents had passed to a ghastly accident, leaving her the sole provider for her younger brother, Daniel, without any support or money to take care of him. At 12, Daniel was bright and kind, entirely dependent on Helena for school fees, food, rent, and the stability every child deserved. Helena tried to carry this responsibility quietly. Crossing the busy street, she whispered to herself, "This is temporary." But she knew better. Survival often became permanence. The building shimmered in the morning sun. Inside, cool air and polished floors reflected a world Helena barely belonged to. Colleagues walked confidently, their shoes clicking on tiles. The polished walls and glass partitions amplified their authority. Meanwhile, hours later, Adrienne, a 35-year-old wealthy CEO, entered the office. Young, ambitious, and respected, Adrienne's life was structured and disciplined. He believed hard work always paid off. Failure was unacceptable, and success was a logical outcome of effort. He passed Helena as she mopped the entrance floor. She stepped aside respectfully. He didn't see her, not because he was cruel, but because she was invisible in his world. Her first weeks were quiet. She learned her duties quickly: offices, corridors, and restrooms. She worked meticulously, keeping her head down. Yet she listened and observed. She overheard discussions about projects, financial reports, and strategy. Some terms were familiar, some unfamiliar, but she absorbed everything, learning without speaking. Home life was no easier. One evening, Daniel said softly, "Helena, my teacher said if I don't pay my school fees by this week, I would not be allowed to enter the school premises." Helena's jaw tightened. "I'll sort it out," she said, keeping her voice steady. She didn't yet know how. Later, after Daniel slept, she pulled out her certificates. Proof of effort and ambition. She stared at them, thinking of what life could have been. She folded them carefully, returning them to their safe place. Helena's nights were filled with quiet determination and subtle fear. She prayed for opportunity, but relied on her own endurance. She knew the city was harsh, but survival demanded resilience, not hope alone. 2 weeks later, something unusual happened. A very important, confidential document went missing from Adrienne's office. The building's security team immediately reviewed CCTV footage and noticed Helena entering the office that morning to clean. No one openly accused her, but the atmosphere around her shifted instantly. Guards lingered near her workstation longer than usual, and colleagues whispered quietly, glancing her way. Helena felt the weight of suspicion pressing down on her, yet she remained composed. The next morning, she was quietly approached by a security officer. "Ms. Helena, please come with us," he said politely but firmly. Helena's heart skipped a beat. She had never been questioned in such a manner before, and the idea of being under suspicion was unsettling, yet she didn't panic. She followed them to a small, windowless office on the level, refusing to be rattled by the subtle accusations in their glances. After what felt like hours, Adrienne spoke again. "Thank you, Helena. We will continue the investigation, but I want to assure you that your account is noted. Please continue with your work as usual." Helena nodded, trying not to let relief show on her face. She returned to her cleaning duties, her hands steady but her mind racing. One evening, while cleaning a conference room, she noticed an envelope tucked under a chair. Inside were cash and important documents, enough to cover Daniel's school fees. She could have taken it. Nobody would have known. But Helena did not. Instead, she carried it to the security desk. "I found this in the conference room," she said calmly. The guard nodded silently. "No thanks." No acknowledgement. Helena turned and left quietly. The next morning, Adrienne received the envelope. Everything was intact. He read the note. "Found by cleaner, Helena." Her name lingered in his mind. Adrienne frowned. He could not reconcile his assumptions about cleaners with what he now knew about Helena. A few days later, Adrienne called Helena to his office. When she entered, he said, "You found my documents," he said. "Yes," Helena replied. "Thank you," he said. She nodded and said it was the right thing to do. Hearing her reply, Adrienne nodded and told her she could go. Helena turned and walked out of the office to continue her job. Adrienne began observing her more closely. She arrived early, worked meticulously, and quietly corrected minor errors. Once, she adjusted a calculation during a group discussion. Adrienne checked later. She was right. Small gestures followed. He left a note praising her accuracy. He invited her input during minor discussions. Slowly, admiration formed in his mind. Helena was intelligent, capable, and principled, yet she remained unnoticed by others. Helena, meanwhile, remained unaware of the stir she caused. She focused on her work, determined not to let recognition or envy distract her. But life had a way of noticing integrity, even when people ignored it. Even as a cleaner, Helena's presence did not go unnoticed. She arrived early, moved quietly through the corridors, and completed her tasks meticulously. She polished floors, wiped surfaces, and ensured offices looked presentable, but she did more than just clean. Helena had a keen eye for detail. She noticed misplaced documents, errors in files left on desks, and minor mistakes in scheduling. Though it was not her responsibility, she quietly corrected what she could, always keeping her primary duties intact. Colleagues began to murmur. It was unusual for a cleaner to show such awareness of office operations. Cynthia, a senior administrator with years of experience, felt particularly threatened. Helena's quiet competence and professionalism, combined with her unexpected knowledge of office matters, made Cynthia uneasy. She spread subtle rumors, suggesting Helena was overstepping, too ambitious, or possibly dishonest. Helena was aware of the whispers, but she did not let them disturb her. She focused on her cleaning duties, maintaining precise records of her work, and carefully documenting any irregularities she noticed. Rivalries escalated. In meetings, colleagues openly questioned decisions and ideas. Rumors and subtle snubs accompanied her work in the office corridors. Yet Helena maintained her composure, knowing her role as a cleaner meant she had no formal authority, and that envy often spoke louder than merit. Adrienne, observing her quietly, began finding ways to support her without breaking protocol. He asked for her input on minor operational issues. Even in meetings she was not formally invited to attend. He praised her discreetly in front of management, signaling the value of her contributions. Despite her unofficial status, Helena gradually earned respect from some colleagues. People began to notice that her suggestions were thoughtful, practical, and often correct. However, envy lingered, especially among those who felt her growing influence encroached on their authority. Helena understood that her position as a cleaner placed her in a delicate balance. Her actions could inspire admiration or resentment, and she needed to navigate both carefully. Through it all, Helena remained committed to her responsibilities. She polished floors, organized workspaces, and completed her cleaning tasks with precision. Despite professional success, Adrienne carried burdens. His parents had high expectations. They subtly criticized his decisions, questioning when he would marry. Mentors scrutinized him, comparing him to older colleagues. He silently bore the weight, rarely revealing vulnerability. Seeing Helena's resilience forced him to confront his own insecurities. She endured hardship with composure, intelligence, and integrity. Adrienne realized that his privileged life had shielded him from true adversity. He began reflecting on his assumptions, noticing gaps in his empathy. Helena, struggling silently every day, challenged his worldview. His admiration for her grew, eventually moving beyond professional respect. Helena's life outside the office was as challenging as her days inside. Her small apartment was modest, almost cramped, but it was home to her and Daniel. Cooking, cleaning, and budgeting consumed most of her evenings. She always tried to make the apartment feel warm despite their limited resources. Daniel, though bright and diligent, was growing quickly. He often asked questions about their future, school, careers. Helena smiled, hiding her worry behind a mask of calm. "Helena, I know you're tired," Daniel said one evening as they ate a simple meal. "I don't want you to do all this for me." Helena reached across the table, holding his hands gently. "I don't mind, Daniel. You're my brother. I'll do this. Always." Sometimes, when Daniel fell asleep, she would sit by the small balcony, staring at the city lights, reflecting on her parents, and wondering what life could have been. Despite exhaustion, she never allowed despair to take hold. She had learned early that survival required determination, not hope alone. Adrienne began noticing Helena more frequently. It started with small gestures, a note complimenting her meticulous work, a casual question about her day, or walking her to the elevator after late shifts. Helena remained professional, cautious not to let attention distract her. But over time, brief conversations became longer, meaningful exchanges. During a lunch break, Adrienne invited Helena to his office. Then he asked, "Helena, why do you take all the insults thrown at you, despite all this?" She paused, staring at her simple lunch. "I have to provide for my brother," she said softly. "Everything I do is for him. And I need to survive." Adrienne listened, struck by the quiet strength in her words. "I can't imagine managing everything on your own. It must be exhausting." Helena shrugged. "It is. But I've learned that life doesn't wait. You can either give up or keep going. I choose to keep going." Their conversations gradually shifted beyond work. Helena spoke of Daniel, of her dreams and fears, of the life she wanted for herself. Adrienne shared his own struggles, the pressure from his family, the weight of expectations, the loneliness that accompanied his career. Through these exchanges, respect grew into admiration. Adrienne saw in Helena an intelligence, resilience, and dignity that few possessed. Helena, in turn, recognized his integrity, empathy, and vulnerability once he trusted her with his fears. Even brief, shared moments carried meaning. A smile, a quick conversation in the corridor, a mutual understanding of unspoken challenges. These interactions created a bond rooted in trust, understanding, and silent support. Their bond slowly evolved into something deeper. Helena was careful, wary of pride and social judgment. Adrienne approached cautiously, aware of office scrutiny and Helena's independence. One rainy evening, after finishing a late project, Adrienne invited her for coffee at a nearby cafe. "I thought it would be nice to talk somewhere quiet," he said gently. Helena hesitated. She wasn't accustomed to being treated with such care, especially from someone of Adrienne's status. Yet, she agreed. At the cafe, conversation drifted from work to personal reflections. Helena spoke of the weight of responsibility and her hopes. Adrienne revealed insecurities about his family's expectations and fears of failing despite his successes. "You've accomplished so much, Helena," Adrienne said quietly. "And yet, you carry it all with such grace. I admire you." Helena felt a flush of emotion. "I've had no choice," she said softly. "I've learned to endure." For the first time, Adrienne realized the depth of her struggle. His admiration shifted towards something more tender, something that would grow into love. Helena, cautiously, began to trust him, sensing sincerity beneath his quiet demeanor. Their connection strengthened over months, shared laughter, private jokes, subtle gestures of kindness. Helena learned that opening her heart did not mean weakness. Adrienne learned humility and the value of seeing people beyond status and appearance. Helena's quiet diligence had always set her apart, even as a cleaner. She arrived early, moved quietly through the office, polished floors, and organized spaces with meticulous care. She also had a keen eye for mistakes, yet her competence drew envy from Cynthia, a senior administrator who felt threatened by Helena's unexpected awareness and composure. One afternoon, chaos erupted in the office. A huge sum of money had gone missing from Cynthia's desk. Whispers spread instantly. Then came the accusation that Helena had dreaded most. Cynthia, with a calm but sharp tone, approached management. "Helena must have taken my money," Cynthia claimed. "She was the last person near my office this morning. I think we should investigate her immediately." Helena froze. Her hands gripped her cleaning cart, knuckles white. I did not take anything, she said, her voice steady despite the rising panic in her chest. The office was tense. Colleagues murmured behind her back, eyes filled with suspicion. Security was called, and Helena was escorted to a private office for questioning. For the first time, the reality of losing her job, even temporarily, felt terrifying. She thought of Daniel, her brother, of the bills, of the fragile stability she had worked so hard to maintain. Adrienne, informed of the situation, entered the office. He had observed Helena before and was already impressed with her composure and honesty. Now, seeing her under suspicion, he knew he had to act carefully. "Helena," he said firmly, "we will investigate thoroughly, but I need the truth from you. Did you take this money?" "No, sir," Helena replied, her eyes steady. "I found nothing, touched nothing, beyond my cleaning duties. I only did my job." Adrienne ordered a careful review, CCTV footage, colleague interviews, and a check of office records. Hours passed, the tension building like a storm. Finally, the truth emerged. Cynthia's sabotage became clear. She had hidden the money herself, intending to frame Helena and damage her reputation. Adrienne summoned the staff. His tone was calm but unyielding. "The investigation is complete. Helena has done nothing wrong. The accusation was false." He paused, locking eyes with Cynthia. "Cynthia, your actions have endangered the integrity of this office. You are dismissed, effective immediately." Helena felt a rush of relief and disbelief. Her heart pounded, tears threatening to spill. Adrienne turned to her. "Helena, I am sorry you had to endure this. Your honesty, composure, and professionalism have been proven beyond doubt. Never let anyone make you question your worth." "Thank you, sir," Helena whispered, her voice trembling. "I only did what was right." The office was silent, the lesson clear. Envy could not undermine integrity. Helena returned to her cleaning duties that day with a quiet sense of vindication. For Adrienne, the incident cemented his admiration for Helena. She had endured false accusations, faced the threat of dismissal, and emerged unshaken. It was proof of her character, resilience, and courage, qualities that no status or position could diminish. Helena's perseverance culminated in recognition. She earned a permanent administrative position, her work no longer invisible. Colleagues who had doubted her now acknowledged her skill. At home, she paid Daniel's school fees, ensuring his future. She was given an apartment. With her promotion, Helena realized that quiet strength, patience, and integrity could change circumstances even in a world stacked against her. Adrienne openly praised her competence, both privately and during office discussions. Helena's name became associated with reliability, intelligence, and professionalism. Workplace harmony gradually returned. The climax was not a dramatic confrontation, but the quiet affirmation of Helena's worth, through her achievements, recognition, and the subtle gentle. "I admire you, Helena. More than I should, perhaps. But I can't ignore it anymore. I care for you deeply." Helena, surprised, looked at him. Her heart raced. She had grown to trust and respect Adrienne over months, but love had seemed distant and impossible. I feel the same," she whispered. "But I am cautious. I have responsibilities, Daniel, life. I cannot afford mistakes." Adrienne nodded. "I understand. I am not asking for anything reckless, only for your trust." Slowly, their love unfolded, patiently, deliberately, grounded in mutual respect. Their relationship blossomed quietly, shielded from office gossip and social judgment. 2 years later, Adrienne proposed quietly at the cafe where they had first connected. Helena reflected on her journey, the struggles, the perseverance, the quiet triumphs. She said yes. Their wedding was intimate but elegant. Family, close friends, and a few colleagues attended. Adrienne did not flaunt wealth. Helena's elegance was understated. The ceremony emphasized partnership, trust, and enduring love. Post-marriage life remained real. Careers and responsibilities continued. Yet they balanced each other. Adrienne became more empathetic and humble. Helena learned to accept support and love. Together, they built a home grounded in respect, trust, and shared vision. Years later, Daniel graduated with honors. Helena and Adrienne stood proudly beside him. Their journey had been arduous, filled with struggle and perseverance, but they had endured. Helena mentored younger employees, teaching that talent, integrity, and perseverance could overcome adversity. Adrienne initiated programs to recognize underappreciated workers, inspired by Helena's story. Together, they reflected on their past. Struggle had not broken them. Perseverance, integrity, and love had strengthened them. They had built a life where respect, compassion, and understanding mattered more than status or wealth. Lesson: talent survives hardship. Integrity endures under pressure. Love flourishes when rooted in respect, trust, and understanding. Helena and Adrienne's story was proof. Helena's journey reminds us that life doesn't always place us where we belong. It places us where we must begin. She walked into that building every day not as a title or a position, but as a woman carrying responsibility, loss, and hope. What changed her life wasn't luck or shortcuts, but integrity, patience, and the courage to remain herself even when the world doubted her. Through struggle, betrayal, and quiet perseverance, Helena proved that true worth cannot be hidden forever. Love found her not because of wealth or status, but because of character. And in the end, she didn't just rise. She inspired everyone who witnessed her journey. If Helena's story touched you, then maybe you've walked a similar path, working hard in silence, feeling overlooked, or carrying responsibilities no one sees. Let this story remind you that your efforts matter and your time will come. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, support this channel by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribing for more powerful stories of resilience, love, and transformation. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt underestimated like Helena? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your story matters too.